All right.
So I'm Dr. Renee Haberl, and I've been in practice here in Scottsdale for about 24 years, as of last month, actually. And my practice focuses on full family health, and the majority of my clients actually are women. And I think that's not by accident, to be honest with you. And it's usually the men that come being dragged in because their wives are tired of listening to them most of the time. I do also run a nonprofit. I do a animal rescue. And right now we just got a new puppy, like Laura said, and we're training her to be a service dog for my husband Troy because his current one is 9.5 and deserves a little bit of a break. That's me.
I love it. I was thinking, like, did we talk about Family Guy with replacement Brian, Renee?
Us? No.
Did anybody watch Family Guy when it was on 100 years ago? So anyway, Brian was their dog, right? And then the family got a pup, and the whole, the cartoon is kind of told like the dog talks and everything. And I'm not doing it justice, but the dog family got a puppy, and so they named the puppy Replacement Brian because Brian the dog was getting a little bit older, and I have a 17-year-old dog and a 2-year-old dog, and so Jack is kind of, I think Trey looks at Jack like, "Are you my replacement, Brian?" So anyway, Renee's training up a replacement Brian. So,
Replacement Reese.
and so she's going to talk to us about, like, what are the big problems you solve? Who do you help? You said primarily women. Talk to us. Tell us what we need to know as women in this lovely stages of life that we're in.
One
All
of
the
the
things.
all the fun things, right? So the big problem really is modern lifestyle. It's a sneak attack on our bodies, truly. We have hours of sitting, we have slouched postures, constant stress, tech. We're constantly on electronics, right? And all of these things team up to work havoc on our body. So they tend to throw your spine and your joints out of alignment, which tends to irritate your nerves. It locks up your mobility and it pours gasoline on the fire of chronic pain, right? So let's be honest, we're all busy. We can't put our health on the back burner. And as women, most of us do, right? But chiropractic care is one simple, effective way to help reset the nervous system so our body can manage stress better, move easier, and function at its best. It just gives us a little leg up. We help anywhere from newborns because, birth, it's pretty much the very first extreme sport, right? And
Good point.
and then athletes from weekend warriors to future Hall of Famers, pregnant women. I mean, let's face it, everything changes when you're pregnant, right? Seniors, they have to stay mobile because they have to keep up with the grandkids. And then teens and kids, the heavy backpacks that they carry these days, it's just unreal. Some of them weigh more than the kid themselves. And I wish there was a way around it, but many schools just aren't offering that anymore for other reasons. And office workers, we have to untangle our bodies from the pretzel positions at our computers, right? And right, Laura?
Right, right. You're making me sit up. Like I'm sitting up, and my posture is better than it was when you started.
Look at that. Isn't that wonderful?
Already
But
improved.
yeah, and the nice thing about chiropractic is it doesn't just hit the pain, it helps with all of your function. It lifts your mood, it boosts your energy. You rely less on pain meds. Who wants to take Advil every day, right? And it keeps us in there for the long haul. That's the important thing.
So, like, I know that with the computer and everything, like, I get like everything's on the right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, my physical things, it's TMJ, it's the neck, it's all the way down, it's the shoulder, like, the frozen shoulder thing, like, that's a menopause thing too. And
Yep.
all of that, I've also decided in the past like month that I'm an athlete and started to play pickleball. And so like that's kind of a traumatic experience. And Hannah didn't gatekeep has been gatekeeping pickleball because she plays pickleball. And I didn't realize how much fun it is. Yeah, jumping into like a stop start sport like that with all of that has a lot going on here.
Yep.
And so chiropractic care and preventative maintenance and all that would make all of this easier as a transition for a mature lady such as myself, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of it's about trust, being able to find a practitioner that's helpful to you. So, a lot of it's not like you just can't take a pill, right? We have we have so many different things going on in our bodies, especially, I mean, from early on with menstrual cycles down to menopause and postmenopause, right? You can't just take a pill to get this done. So it really does need a little help.
But we think we can, right? And that's kind of
We
what
do.
am I wrong that that's kind of what we're sold? And I hate to say sold because people have good intentions, but also it's the
Oh
quick
yeah.
fix, right?
It's a very quick fix, and most of us are taught Take a pill. If you're hurting, take an Advil.
Yeah.
Menopause, if you're achy or you're just getting old. That's not true. Because the thing is yes, our bodies get older, we age, but there are things that you can do to stay functional. And that's where chiropractic comes in. And, all other sorts of natural health professions working well together, even, in the medical field too, they have a place. The schools are very similar. The first two boards, we also have to take part 1 through 4 boards. Parts 1 and 2 are the pretty much identical to the MDs. Parts 3 and 4 is where it varies because they get into surgery and pharmacology, where we get more into biomechanics and natural ways to be able to heal things.
So that's part of the
And
difference from a allopath, from a nat allopath. I can never say the word regular. I don't want to say regular doctor
yeah, the
because
medical doctor to a doctor of chiropractic. Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting things, and I mean, what's really cool about our this cohort is we range in age, right? By about 30 something years, right?
Yeah.
And I know one of the like untalked about things is, hey, hi Yvonne, is menopause, right? It's not really talked about. It's starting to be talked about, but I don't think we realize how early it starts for one. And then how many doctors will tell you it's just part of life. You just got to deal. I know, I was, you know, for like 5 years, apparently, I found out having like all these horrible, like, everybody who knows me knows I walked around with this freaking fan for 5 years and it never crossed my mind. And I finally went to the doctor and the doctor was like, you are literally a pretty boy. Like you have no, at least he called me pretty. You have no hormones in your body and no
Yeah.
vitamin D. He said, your body can't regulate anything. But I went to what did I go to? What's he called? He's not a regular.
Naturopath?
Thank you. I went to a
Yeah.
naturopath and he said so often, literally, I burst into tears in his office, and he was like, I have so many women come in and they've heard from doctors, there's nothing you can do about it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I think that's really interesting when you talk about with women that you're supporting them in proactively managing their health and their work. And what kind of what other like what advice can you give us on that, especially as we are earlier in the journey, so that nobody ends up like me sweating for 5 years, gaining 50 pounds and
Oh, yeah.
thinking it was the divorce that was throwing my world off when it was actually probably 10% divorce, 90% not having any hormones, you know?
The other thing is they work together. That's just it. When you have stress going on in your body, your hormones get affected as well. And if you're already going through menopause, your cortisol goes up, your estrogen starts going down, and they work against each other. All of a sudden, you have, like he said, you had no vitamin D, all of this other chemical things really going on in your body that are vitamin and nutrition related. And there are so many different things. There's a breadth of things that you can do to improve that. One of the things that you've been hearing a lot about that has gotten me quite excited is they finally recognize that hip pain in women as we get older, especially if you're like laying on your side and you get this hip pain going on. It is not that your hips need to be replaced. It's likely you're low in estrogen and you're low in vitamin D and you're getting tendinopathy in your hips. And that's something that's
Fascinating.
treatable. Yes. And it's treatable in a variety of different ways. Nutritionally, it's treated with a variety of therapies, with exercises, and with chiropractic care, making sure the hips are aligned.
That seems less dramatic than going straight, going to different places. Does it also come from like holding kids on your, you
Oh,
know
of
what I
course.
mean? Like how we
Oh,
hold
yeah.
kids and then we hold groceries like that. Like how many of you have plopped a bag of groceries on your hip and started swaying, right? You know, because that's what we do. Yeah. I could
It's
see
a
that's
habit.
cumulative over time, right? And I don't know about the rest of y'all. Jump on in because I'm going to keep telling my stories. But I wound up with, I think they called it mommy thumb from picking up my niece
Yep,
as a toddler. And they said, it'll go away in about 18 months. I said, why? They said, because she'll be too heavy for you to lift that way.
pretty much. Yeah,
That was the answer the doctor gave me. I thought it was really interesting though. They're
yeah,
like, or we can do surgery. I'm like, yeah, no, I'll wait
yeah, yeah.
for
And
her.
and I'm really excited about the shift that I'm kind of seeing in some of the medical practices these days. Not all of them, but many of them are kind of starting to shift more towards checking at least the natural substances, referring to chiropractic, referring not necessarily to naturopaths. They still have their arguments going on, but they're looking at these things. I mean, I'm impressed every time I hear someone say, "Oh yeah, well I'm here because my doctor said I needed to see a chiropractor." What's their name? because when I first started in practice 24 years ago, that never happened. That never happened. But it's happening now, and that's exciting. And I think it's because there is a push from the public to be able to have them look at that, and they realize they don't have the education in nutrition, most of them, unless they have an advanced degree, right? Beyond just MD. And they don't understand the biomechanics at all. They don't understand a lot of what goes on muscular and tendon and ligament wise in the body. And I'm really excited to see that change happening.
That's really cool. I saw something. Did anyone else see it? I don't remember where it was posted, but that one state is now requiring that MDs, as they're studying, they actually are required to study nutrition, where
Yes.
they haven't been. And I'm like, what do you mean you haven't been required to study nutrition? Like, not, no, you know? And
No.
that's fascinating to me because of, I think you and I talked very briefly about this, Renee, but about inflammation,
Yes.
right? And how much of an impact that has on everything. And that in general, and as a separate piece, how much the processed foods that we enjoy play
Yeah.
into inflammation, which increases pain, which does all the things. Can you tell us a little bit about what you think about that?
Absolutely. And, not only is it nutrition, but it's all the things that we manage in life, right? As women, we're expected to juggle fire, juggler things or whatever, and, be on a unicycle over shark infested waters on a tightrope, right? And we're expected to still be, okay, we're great. We're fine. We can handle this. We can manage it. But that is daily stress being put on top of all the different hormonal changes that happen in our body from the time, we're like 12. And when you get inflammation in the body and you start adding the increase of cortisol with the stress, the reduction of our hormones, or even just the massive fluctuation that happens in our early to midlife, right? What happens is the inflammation in our body starts attacking ligaments and tendons. And that's where we start getting issues like stiffness in the joints. Because when your ligaments and tendons, which are required for movement, start maybe fraying a little bit, or maybe they're getting weaker, or maybe they're getting lax, maybe they have a minor tear, our bodies all of a sudden say, hey, wait a minute, we need to support that. So everything tightens up around there. We start getting stiff, we start getting achy, our mobility goes down. Then what happens? Our energy goes down, our resilience goes down. These are all things that can be treated naturally. Aging is part of life, but it doesn't have to be miserable.
I like that your tagline is pain is not a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating because so many of us do like just assume, like I had migraines for, decade, like for the past 2 decades, I've struggled with migraines or I've had the opportunity to navigate migraines, right? And now I do a combination of like, Botox. I'm working with Dr. Terry. He's going to like fix my jaw, blah, blah, blah. But it's cumulative over time. And at the point where, I got to the point where, on a 1 to 10, if I'm at a 4, I'm not like this anymore, but if I was at a 4, I considered that a huge success, right? Walking around
Yeah.
at like a level of pain that, you know, a lot of people would be like, yeah, that's not cool. And I went to the doctor, the dentist, and he's like, tell me what you're doing for pain management. And I was averaging, I realized 16 Advil a day.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, how do you manage these? I said, Advil and Diet Coke. And like literally like 3 of these a day and 16 Advil. He's like, yeah, that's not safe. And
No.
that's not going to be sustainable. But it became so normalized, right? Because it's like our boil the frog concept that we talk about, right? Where now we've like, oh, look, we have our frog right there. But the idea that, like Dr. Renee's saying, like the slow increase in cortisol levels and the slow piling on of all the things that we take on, it's like Stephanie mentioned before, our body does the whisper, shout, punch in the face, like, freaking pay attention. And so I think Renee's celebrating the idea that it's totally cool for us to notice it earlier, and it's like our incumbent upon us to do something about it and normalize the idea of women
Yes.
taking care of themselves, because when they see us doing it, then other people will be like, oh yeah, that's an okay thing to do.
Yep. Yeah. And that's the exciting thing that I see in practice too, especially with the women, because they're the caregivers, right? They're the ones that make the decisions in the family. They take care of everyone else. We put ourselves last way too often, right?
Hmm.
And in the beginning, when they come in with, they're hurting and they just want the pain to go away. They want a quick fix, quick patch it up, get me back out there. I got things to do, right? And that's kind of, they're ignoring the signals. right? Those signals can be little love notes that we get from our bodies, like I'm stiff. I get a headache every time I wake up in the morning, then it kind of goes away. Or I get a headache as
Mhm.
it comes on throughout the day. All of these things are like little warning signals that our body is sending us, but we tend to ignore them. Why? We're so busy taking care of everybody
Busy.
else, right? And so, and then I see people kind of start changing a little bit once they've been in because they start realizing those 16 Advil a day is not great.
Good.
Caffeinating with, a lot of caffeine throughout the day isn't really doing your body any favors, right? And they start to get it. They start to listen to those little signals and they're like, they take charge. And so they kind of suit up like little wellness superheroes, right? Which we all are. And they arm themselves with these special powers like proper posture. They can get better sleep. And it starts kind of transitioning them from that cranky frenemy with your body to a
Mhm.
loyal sidekick that's ready for action to take on your day and manage everything that you need to do, right? And suddenly your health's not a battle. You and your body are co pilots and you're steering that ship together and you turn chaos into teamwork. And that's where I love seeing that shift occur because that's when people taking charge of their own bodies start taking charge of their health. They own their mobility and their nervous system health. They enjoy better sleep. The headaches go away, stress reduces, resilience goes up, and they're not focused on escaping pain or managing it anymore.
Mhm.
They're focused on aligning their body to how it's supposed to function. We were built perfectly. We ruin it.
It's true.
We do. And so I love seeing that transition when somebody just comes in and they say, I woke up the other morning, I thought it would go away, it didn't. And I remembered what you said, don't let it set in. I'm here. And I'm like, that's fantastic. And people don't have to continue to go to the chiropractor, 3 times a week for years. That doesn't do anything. I'm going to be honest with you. If that's what you've been stuck doing, don't do it anymore. If you're seeing massive amounts of improvement, that's great. The thing is, you need to learn to listen to your body. You know better than I do when you need to come in. Once we fix an issue, when we're working on fixing an issue, I probably have more experience in treating it than you do. I hope anyway.
I would
But
hope and
yeah,
assume.
I would hope.
Yeah.
But once that's out of the way, you know your body better than anyone. You just got to pay attention. And that's the shift that I love seeing women make because they're paying attention to themselves for one. And that
Yeah.
makes me very excited.
That is so exciting. And the idea of, I thought it was really interesting. So, Dr. Terry Work, the dentist that many of us know,
Mhm.
he, one, recommended that I come see you. So, doing that. And also the dentist recommended that I get regular massages. I've never had a dentist, and you two work pretty closely together. You refer patients to each other, but I've never
Yeah.
had a dentist like refer me to the idea of self care, right? I thought
Yeah.
that was fascinating. So I went in for a massage. They're like, why are you here? I'm like, I don't know. My dentist told me to. And they were like, what? I'm like,
Fantastic.
doctor's orders. I'm here for it. You know what I mean? I just thought it
Yeah.
was really neat. I'm talking a lot. Who else has thoughts, questions, comments that they want to throw in for Renee? Talk it up because, we've got her here and all the good stuff. And she's giving away the good stuff for free right now. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it's been great listening and learning a little bit. My question, and you probably, I don't know if you can answer this or give any insight into it or what, but I am, on the other side of menopause. I'm there and just wondering, you hear all the cortisol and the stress and all the, all the inflammation and everything. Well, I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do about it. I mean,
What to
I've been
do.
talking a lot and you come in but
There's
it's not structural. It's I don't know. So I'm still at a loss. I don't understand. Somebody told me one time, that my cortisol was just huge. She was looking at blood work or I don't know, whatever indicator she was looking at. It was big. And okay, good to know. But now
what
what?
do I
I just
do?
don't
Yeah,
know.
right.
Yeah. And so in the meantime, things, don't get any.
Yep. No, that's an excellent question. And, I don't think anyone really has all of the answers, but let me give you what I do know. So, when cortisol increases, obviously that does increase inflammation, which leads to deterioration of the joints. We talked about that. So, there are some nutritional substances that can help reduce inflammation in the body. There's also some natural substances that can reduce cortisol in the body. It's not just about supplementation, though. That's part of it, right? Turmeric is one of my favorites right now because as long as you're not allergic, because it's like a superpower against inflammation. I put people on it and people that have had anything ranging from autoimmune diseases to just basic arthritis, their pain starts going down. And that's one of the things that I really like to see.
Is there
The other thing is, pardon?
Is there a milligram level? My husband takes turmeric, but I don't know. Is there?
You know, yeah,
guidelines?
typically you can't really overdo it on turmeric unless you get into massive doses, right? Because it is just a natural spice. And, I mean, in various cultures, they use a ton of it. So I just usually say that it comes in little capsules. Typically, they're pretty standard across the board. I tell people to take 3 or 4 a day to start, and then you can gradually kind of reduce. The other thing is that with getting emotional support, right? Being able to do things to reduce your stress levels, massage, meditation, counseling, a lot of different things help reduce those stress levels. And I think when you incorporate all these different things, you're getting yoga, any of these things, I think you're going to get a better relief than focusing on just one thing at a time. The chiropractic's part of that is when you are in that inflammatory state and you're in that stress state and that high arousal state, that fight or flight, your sympathetic nervous system is taking over. That's the part of you that is increasing the cortisol. It's that overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. What we do when we come in, it's not about just moving the joints. It's about resetting that nervous system. It's kind of like taking out the faulty little surge protector, right? And putting a new one in, saying we need to kind of deter this a little bit. So it helps kick in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is more the relax, the digestion, the sleep, that kind of thing. And when we can help reset that nervous system and have that little switch where we start realizing, oh, we're starting to flow into this, hyper fight or flight again, it's time for a treatment. That's one of the signals that I was talking about with that shift that people start to recognize. So it's a combination of things that you can do. I'd be happy to chat with you more about it too. I'll give you my email address. We can email too if that's easier. And I can send you some studies on it too. But there's just so many different concurrent things that we can do. And the last thing should be drugs or surgery. It shouldn't be the first line of defense because that's not what our bodies, we don't have an Advil deficiency, right? We probably have, a vitamin D deficiency, or, sometimes it's, an omega deficiency. We don't have any fatty acids in our bodies. There's even genetic testing that can be done nutritionally that gives you a platform of where you stand and what you might be at risk for. So there's a lot of different things out there now.
Thanks a lot.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, a lot. Thanks.
Okay, good. You're welcome.
That's incredible. I just learned like a million new, not surprising. I just learned like a million new things in that one conversation. Nancy, I'm so glad you asked that question. And I didn't know about the chiropractic care supporting the, parasympathetic, sympathetic balance, right? I didn't know that at all. I knew, like the functional movement type piece of it. And you do dry needling, which is my favorite thing on the planet.
Yeah.
You have those knots and they stick the needle in and it pops it and you get the zing and you feel so good right after. It sounds horrible, but it's really, really amazing. And I love that you suggested to my dear friend, Dr. Nancy Pratt, that she considered the idea of yoga. I've been trying to get her to go to yoga with me for about 5 years now. So, So very cool. We are so happy to have you here. What other questions do we have for Dr. Renee while she might hang out with us for a little bit, but want to see what other questions, comments, thoughts. We'll make sure you get her contact info. And then, we're going to ask what you guys are going to talk about in an elevator for an hour. So questions from the doctor's side of the house. Anything, dry needling. Oh, she's done dry needling on you, Yvonne?
Yes.
Do you love it? I love it when I get it in my neck. Oh, absolutely love it. Yeah.
I think it's one of the most best therapies that have come out and brought into more the mainstream physical medicine realm in the past 20 years. It's amazing. I would take that over any of the other therapies any day. Yeah.
I can't say I loved it, but but I loved what it did for me because I have right-handed and I do hair, and so it's the strangest thing. It just like popped up like from one day to the next. I've never really had an issue, thankfully, knock on whatever fake wood is around. I didn't have any carpal tunnel issues or anything like that. I mean, I do have, and I stretch and I do my things, but I was getting to the point where from here to here, all the way down, I mean, I was holding a coffee cup and it was like, I was doing this number, you know, it was really, really bad. Yeah. I was like to the point where I was like, I was holding the coffee cup and that was what it was happening. And so I'm like, and it was just so painful. And I had this little pressure band thing that my husband inevitably stole from me, but for his, because apparently he has a golf elbow, but I would wear it and it would put the pressure right there and it would subside, not, it would help. It would help me get through my work day so that I wasn't in constant pain. And so finally, I remembered that Dr. Renee said that she did dry needling. And I'm like, oh, I think that's what I need to do. I get my regular massages and do all that. But I mean, that wasn't even helping. And and I had and I was like, my husband was deep going in and that wasn't helping. So yeah, those needles, they were really amazing in the respect that she just really knows where to, you know, put them. And I have had acupuncture before. So it's that same, if you're unfamiliar with dry needling, it's that same gauge, I guess, of needle, right, Renee? That same gauge of needle, but it goes, the way she explained it, it goes one touch deeper. Whew. And it does go that one touch deeper. But it was so amazing because even after one treatment, I didn't feel like a pop like you felt, but I was like, oh, it just felt like it was relaxed out. And yeah, it was painful, but mine was so tight. And I'm like, it's nothing against you, but I'm not going to watch you do this because I just don't really like enjoy needles in general. And but she did say, I mean, there was a couple times where I did cuss out loud, but she said,
"You're not selling it."
Hey, you know, hey, if I went back, I'm telling you, that's something. But I did. I said, I'm sorry. And she said, you know what? You're doing better than some men that I have in here that are crying like babies when I put it in their knee. And I'm like, oh, calm down. So I was like, oh, it made me feel better. So I'm like, okay. And she said I only needed 3 sessions. And yeah, after the 3rd session, I'm like, oh yeah, this is so much better. So yeah, it definitely is. You know, it's not necessarily something that I'm like, oh, let's sign up for dry needling. But it is, I know that it works and I would sign up for it again if I needed to. And I recommend it too. You have no idea how many times I talk about dry needling to my clients and I'm like, here's Doc Renee. She's great. Go see her. Da, 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 da. So I am passing her info off to all the people that, you know, when we talk about these things, because of course I talk about all kinds of stuff with like that with my clients. So yeah, it really is amazing. Like she's right. It's a great therapy.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Sure.
She'll be Venmoing you $20 or something, right? She's like, hell yeah, you know. All right. So last question. Go ahead.
I have
Sorry.
tons of questions, Dr. Renee, but I know I have to set up a one-to-one with you and I can ask you questions. But I was just wondering, like, I didn't know you did dry needling. Is there a couple other things you want to throw out that is happening at your office?
Sure. Yeah. We also do something called functional cupping. People are used to doing just regular cupping because sometimes they'll get it done like with the massage. It's where you get those little round bruises, you know, at the end that go away after a couple days. But we use a technique called functional cupping where we use the cups and then we put things through ranges of motion so that it breaks apart the fascia much faster, much quicker. And it's more effective than just the cups that kind of sit there or that you just slide on. So we do that. We also do shockwave therapy, which is really great for people that have frozen shoulder, people that have minor tears, not full tears, but minor tears in like a shoulder or a knee, generate something called fibrinogen, which helps build back the tissue that's damaged. And so, yeah, that's something that we recently started to offer within probably the last year and a half. And we've seen some really good results with that.
That's really cool. Nancy just asked, do you take insurance? And I think yes.
Yes, ma'am. The only insurance that I'm aware that we do not take is Humana.
Okay, that's really, I'm fascinated. I'm interested in functional. I've never done any sort of cupping, functional cupping, like the idea of breaking up the fascia. And I'm like, it's It's a pickleball injury. I like to sound so, I sound so athletic. Like Hannah's an actual athlete. And so she's camera off right now. But if you see her, you're like, yeah, that girl's an athlete, right? You know what I mean? She does everything like, volleyball, competitive volleyball, pickleball, like she's on it. I'm just like decided, like, Yvonne and I decided the past couple of weeks that we're gonna, like, I played 3 hours of pickleball like in a day, and my body is like, what the fresh hell are you doing to me? You know what I mean? But for people who are, like Hannah just said, okay, she wants to try functional cupping after a tournament weekend. So is that something that we would want to do after, athletic
Yeah.
experiences, or is it something like us everyday people should do? Like, is that targeted
Um,
towards?
it's pretty much anyone. I mean, anyone that has an area that is constantly stiff and will not let go, right? So
Oh,
it works really well with that. We do it a lot more in athletes, and I think it's because they're paying attention to their bodies a little bit more and they're using them to a bigger extreme, right? And so it's a great thing to do right after, like a competition or when you're doing a major athletic activity, because you kind of tighten up. You want to wait a couple of days because you don't want there to be that inflammation from, the body rebuilding and recovering from that. But it's also good to do prior to any kind of competition. Like we do it a lot with golfers before a tournament because it increases their range of motion, loosens their swing. We do it a lot with tennis players, baseball players, because it just allows better freedom of movement.
okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Great question, Stephanie. You like opened the door to other things that we got to talk about. That was really, really
Yeah.
good. All
You
right.
got to say that more, Renee, about
Yeah.
the golfers and the releasing, because man, because I didn't know that, and now you'll get we'll get those golfers to get right in there, man, because they're like, wait, what? It's gonna help my swing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a gentleman that he plays tournaments every weekend during the summer, and he comes in every Friday to get treated prior to his golf. And he skipped a couple of weeks and he said that he was off and he didn't place as well.
Shut
So
up.
yeah. Yeah. So he's like a tournament lifer, I think.
Y'all have to tell Tim about that, because I've been trying to get him to come into you, and now I'll have to tell him that, because he keeps telling, he's like, I'm a scratch golfer now, and I'm like, yeah, I know, I don't care. But I mean, he cares, so whatever.
So cool. Very cool, Renee. Thank you so much for, yay,
You're
for
welcome.
talking with
Thank
us.
you.
This is incredible. I feel like so much more evolved in the understanding of, what's going on, thanks to everything that you shared. We are going to do this. We're going to take, like, does anybody need a potty break? Fill their water, all that? Yeah. I guess you don't have to tell me if you have to go potty, but let's go camera off for 5 minutes, take a quick break, do whatever bio break that we're going to do, and then come back. We're going to talk about the 3 people you need in your circle for, success. Some of you know this already and can build on it with me. And then we're going to talk about how we're going to prep for project week, which is next week, where we're working on our specific goal for this incubator coaching cycle. So Renee, stick around for a little bit and, hear what we're talking about, because that way we can give back to you a little bit, maybe a touch of what you've given and shared with us. So camera off, 5 minutes, back at 10:06. Oh yeah, we're all in the same time zone, 10:06. All right, see you in a bit.